I do too. I will say this, aside from the Richard sisters, I had I liked Erika better tonight. Strangely so. And I don't normally say that. But I was like, okay, little redeeming. No, I mean, I'm not saying that it changes my opinion on anything. And I think that next week it's going to go right back in the shitter. But I felt like it was a little bit better. It was better than last week.
It's funny because I took notes this time, which I never do. I told you I was just somehow caught up in my work life. And at the beginning, I have a lot of like, I was like a lawyer. I was coming for Erika. And we'll get into it. So many things she said. Okay. And then at the end, I literally wrote, it's funny, I literally wrote like, I mean, do we feel a little bit bad? Like I had the same exact reaction, 100%. Like, is part of like, do we like Erika just a little better after this week? I literally felt the same way. Like, all these people that are like, blah, 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 you come for her, even though most people are coming for her. I'm like, I could see the other side for a minute. Like, just, doesn't delete anything with the victims. And right, like next week we might, but it's so funny you say that. I was like, am I bored? Am I caught up in life? Like, why am I feeling so generous with my emotions towards Erika tonight?
I felt like I kind of sympathize slightly in the regard that I thought, she really is just in this, and, this is her life now, and she's has to make the best of it. And when she said, what am I going to do? I just turned 50. This is my life. I have to turn it around. I have to survive this. I was like, okay, she's right. She's right. But in the same sense, I will say, I think she has handled herself very, very poorly thus far. And I think she'll probably, any good things we felt today watching this episode, will probably not feel that way next week or by the time it's over. But she's just made really poor choices throughout all of it. And hold on, my dog's so. And she doesn't seem to ever be able to admit a mistake, and that is hard.
She's like LVP 2.0.
Kind of. Right?
Well, before I get to my sympathetic feelings for a minute for her, the way it's like, the thing is, this is what I wrote down, because like her argument to me makes no sense. Like, I mean, Andy, to his credit, stayed on it. Like, why? So first, let's talk about the fact that she says Tom is cheating, which I still don't even personally believe that. That's just me.
I also would say, if he's cheating, I mean, this isn't very nice of me, but I'll just be honest. Ew, who cares? I say thank you, ladies, for doing something I didn't want to do.
I was just gonna say that.
Ugh.
Like,
I mean, it's not nice, but it's
like, why do you like let him cheat? Who cares? I agree. I know that's not nice, but I agree.
Yeah.
I just, if you think about it, right? So, like, if any of us were I mean, people stay when they get cheated on, but not most. I mean, not if you're in love. So, like, that's where Andy, and like, there was something she kept saying, which that was doing. So it's like, you're married to this person who cheats. And then when Andy's like, why didn't you leave? She kept saying like, because then they're like, well, you stayed for the money because you didn't leave. So he cheated. Right. You're not there because he's now. And then she kept saying like, I'm just looking at my notes. Like, did you stay for the money? She kept saying, I couldn't leave because I didn't have access to the money. And then people and Andy were like, so you stayed for the money? And she's like, I didn't stay for the money. I stayed because I didn't have access to the money. Like, what would I do if I left? Well, like, that's when Andy was like, well, if you're going to get half and you're making, now we all know you make 600,000. So like, I don't understand. Like, what do you mean you can't leave? Like, you can't leave because you don't have access to the money. How is that different than you can't leave and you're staying for money only? Like, she seemed to think there was some difference. Like, I
But
have
why?
no access to the money, so that's why I can't leave. I gave him well, if you're going to divorce someone and you're handing over your check, well, you would stop that like a month before you're going to leave or whatever.
But why wouldn't she, if she's knew he was cheating on her and she was making money for how long, she could have easily gone to Evolution Media and said, do not deposit my checks. Don't send them to Girardi, send them to this bank. And if they're some big, powerful law firm, you think they're going to notice a check that's, however much money not coming in? Doubt it.
Right. That's what made no sense. I'm like,
None.
there's
Zero.
like, that's where it's like, so in the beginning, I was like, I'm telling you, she kept saying I couldn't leave because I couldn't. Her point was like, I didn't have access to the money. So if I left, I'd have zero. Well, you would have a $600,000 a year and eventually get half.
No, but I think that because of the amount of money that she spent every month, her check from Housewives wasn't covering. So she couldn't leave because that American Express bill wasn't going to be covered with her salary. And I do think, and this is just my opinion, I do think that when she found out what was coming down, and I do think she probably knew, I just find it so hard to believe that with American Express, if you don't pay your bill, you pay your bill in full every month. And I can't remember, I read it somewhere, how much money that they owed American Express. And at some point, American Express is going to cut her credit card off. And if she goes to buy something and they say, I'm sorry, your credit card's been declined, you think she's not going to go to him and say, hey, my credit card was declined? And you think he's not going to say to her, hey, I'm not paying the bill? I don't know.
You think she would have stayed? Right. I mean, that was Andy's point of like,
that's when she was probably thinking, like, I got to get out of Dodge. The shit's hitting the fan. I got to, get out.
Right. And that's where she's like, well, I was leaving because he was declining, not.
And didn't someone write in and say, how did you manage to get an apartment, put a down payment? Because a $10,000 apartment is first, last, and 1 month's rent. That's $30,000. Plus she got herself a car. I don't believe that she packed up everything in one day and was just out like, she threw all her stuff in a duffel bag. This is not happening like that. Sorry. I'm not buying it.
And like, I understand you want the money and your lifestyle, but like, if you're miserable at some point, like, again, I go back to what I said last week, like, there are women that walk away from miserable marriages with literally like on unemployment, $400 a week and food stamps. You had this job, and if you really didn't know what was going to happen, then in your mind, you were going to get half of this fortune. Yep. You would have left. Totally. So that's where it's like, I don't understand how you're saying you didn't have access to the money. And then they kind of felt sorry for her, the other women. I'm like, that's not really like, why would you have access to any money if you're leaving someone? Like, that doesn't, like, to me, it's like, that didn't make it any better. If you're miserable in a miserable marriage, start over, like, with nothing. Like, people do it.